Good question. How far along is the Year 4 beginner Let's Play? Like halfway? You mean on YouTube or on the stream? I think the current Russian tree and setup is temporary fix before the rework is done. Yeah, I don't really get why they did that. It hasn't really changed anything except removing the Civil War. I mean, I get removing the Civil War, but that would be easy enough to do without completely overhauling the focus tree. Which they did. And it's a player, so I can't show you. And even then, I really do hope that there is still a Russian Civil War. Like, if Russia had a Civil War as well as China, then Co-Pro would be more balanced. I get that that's a Kaiserreich Weekly thing and not a Kaiserreich thing, but still, I feel like Russia in its current state is far too strong. It does kind of upset the overall balance, especially for the Reichspakt. Like, Germany just never feels like quite the supreme threat that it should be. Because of the threat that Russia poses. And they almost always fight on two fronts because of it. Doesn't Russia have a hard enough time already? No! Russia is easily one of the strongest nations in the game, if not the strongest. Because they have no civil war to worry about. They have basically unlimited industrial potential. They have some of the strongest focuses, giving them access to tanks and stuff years earlier than the others. Like, there are specific rules in Kaiserreich Weekly to stop Russia from spamming their tank development focuses. They can get heavy tank 3s in, like, 1940. It's ridiculous. That might even be early. Sorry, too late. They might even be able to do it earlier, I don't know. I don't tend to rush equipment tax as other more multiplayer-centric players do. Anyway, Dominion of India has managed to get a nice cut-off here. They are continuing to press pretty deeply into Baratia. How is Baratia looking at this point? In fact, we can just click on you. Not too bad. And it looks like they have managed to turn things around a little bit in Panama. Oh, no, they have not. They've lost the port. I think Panama's lost. Along with 3 Canadian units and a Marine and an infantry. I mean, they are currently attacking this Japanese unit, but Panama are sending in reinforcements. And these guys are going to be out of supply. And if this lot decides to turn around and attack them back again, that's it. They're never going to recover our organization. I think that they've lost the canal. What a fantastic move by the Co-Pro. That's the move of the game so far for me. Taking Panama, that's a big deal. Russia feels like a hard thing to balance. Lots of potential end power. Same reason why the US has a civil war, because it's too strong without it. Yeah, exactly. And you want to know something funny? The origins of Kaiserreich is a Russian Civil War mod. Like, the entire thing of Kaiserreich emerged because of a mod about a Russian Civil War. So the fact that they've removed that is like removing the very roots of Kaiserreich. Which, admittedly, I never played, so I don't care about that much, but it seems like a big thing to be taking away. It was the Russia Divided Territories mod or something like that. Became Kaiserreich. Oh, hold on. Okay, so... whose side's Costa Rica on? Costa Rica's on Tarn. Okay. So they're giving this territory to Costa Rica, so no. They're keeping the Panama. That makes a lot more sense, okay. Not quite as big a deal. Not nearly quite as big a deal. I feel like the US is going to lose to the PSA. I don't. We did see an incredibly strong PSA in last week's game, but the fact that the USA took out the CSA this early, that's a big deal. The fact that they kept New England, that's a big deal. And the fact that they're doing this much damage to the AUS right now, that's also a big deal. So once the AUS falls, which it will, sooner rather than later, because they've already lost their eastern provinces, and they're not that far away from New Orleans now, then they can turn their full focus on Pacific states. And the issue that the PSA has is lack of manpower and lack of industry. Yeah, you're going to be fighting across the Rockies, but at that point it's going to be this versus this. So while the PSA is currently not really being focused and the USA is clearly just sacrificing these northern territories, once all of that is gone, the US has basically just got to defend this against the PSA. They did lose Chicago, admittedly, but Chicago is cut off. That's 8 divisions. That's 8 divisions the PSA can't afford. Like, this is actually far, far worse for the PSA than it is for the USA. This, so far, has been a very smartly fought American Civil War. Okay, so we have the Tuareg Wars against the French now, and it looked like the French were fortifying the northern quadrant really quite heavily to try and make sure that they take out the Tuareg Confederation as quickly as possible, particularly before volunteers arrive. And this is one of the things that kind of took me by surprise last week. I had not expected this, is other players can send volunteers to these Berber factions. So I don't know why, but that had never occurred to me before I saw them doing it last year, and that can really put a dampener into the French Republic taking those territories back again. Meanwhile, this seems to have really become a stalemate. It hasn't looked like Fentieng's really been able to push. Baoding has actually fallen again to Qing's forces. Qing is definitely beginning to solidify. The one thing that Qing does not have is a port. They've lost the port here in Jingzhou. Although, I guess supply is flowing through Nanjing, League of... These guys, the League of 6 provinces, 8 provinces, 5 provinces, 9 provinces, whatever you want to call them. The League. So they should still be getting equipment and stuff coming in. And it looks like the Reichspakt is investing fairly heavily in keeping Qing alive. Still not sending guns, though. And is the League doing anything? No. Although the volunteers from all 4 of those nations is basically allowing them to double up against Fentiang, because they will have military access they can move through. So effectively the Reichspakt forces are sending double the volunteers that they should be able to send, because the League of 6 Provinces is in this war, which is probably contributing a big deal to the fact that they can stymie this. One thing that I do want to wonder is infantry equipment. It's not actually that bad. Like the stockpiles of Qing right now is pretty healthy. And then the League of 8 Provinces stockpiles a bit lower, but they also have an awful lot of troops. 29 divisions. How many does Qing have now? 42. Crikey. Is Canada actually building factories this time? I can confirm Canada's building factories, so they are out of fuel. That's another thing that we saw very frequently, is players are quite happy to just run out of fuel, which seems like a bad idea for Canada, because they will have aircraft flying. And the US has fuel, and we did see that somebody was lend-leasing the US fuel. Yeah, France is. CNTFAI declared war on Portugal. This is before Portugal could join the Entente, so that's going to be good for them. That's going to allow CNTFAI to unite the entirety of the Iberian Peninsula, and might also give them colonies down here. Although with Middle Africa fighting against Portugal at the moment, that might just go to Middle Africa. In fact, is Middle Africa being supported? And is Portugal? Middle Africa is being supported by Austria. And Portugal is being supported by nobody. I don't know if they're allowed to. I have a feeling that Portugal is one of the nations that nobody is allowed to support. And then CNTFAI is being supported by Chile and Patagonian Workers' Front. No, they're not. Argentina is being supported by the Reichspakt. This is another war I'd completely forgotten about. And it actually looks like the Patagonian workers are being annihilated. They are not being supported by anyone. Chile is being supported... Oh, they were sending to Chile. CNT, France, Ireland, and Italy have all got troops in Chile, but none to Patagonia at all, unless they were destroyed. This was one of the big things in the game last week, is... the Third Internationale fought really quite hard to secure South America. They'd taken Brazil, they'd taken Argentina. And that war is ongoing. Meanwhile, in Panama, that is one giant stalemate. Okay. And then United States, they seem to have solidified the lines a bit more. It looked... Oh no, I was going to say deal with the devil had been done because I was seeing no troops here, but that's not actually true. That fight is still ongoing. AUS has managed to consolidate their forces a little bit and do seem to be doing a bit of a better job fighting the USA. AUS has lost 500,000. US has only actually lost 180,000 in this war. So the AUS definitely the ones coming in the worst off, probably because the USA just has significantly better units. And we can see that the AUS is definitely struggling in terms of either equipment or manpower. It's not manpower, it's equipment. But that war has slowed down a bit. Meanwhile, over here in Qing, Baoding remains in the hands of the Qing coalition. And yeah, this is basically stalemated. Although we can see a very large offensive going on over here. 11 divisions attacking into 3 right now. It's into forest. They do have defences in place. Tribe Albayan, that's one of the Bedouin forces. That's one thing we should check, is whether these guys are getting volunteers or not. Especially Wadai. If Wadai gets volunteers because their capital is all the way back here, and these are just single provinces to get there, you can really screw the French just holding those positions. Likewise with Tuareg. In fact, they have to go through Tuareg to get to Wadai. So Tuareg currently has none. Wadai currently has none. No, nobody is volunteers. So they're just letting France retake all of their territories. Meanwhile, GEA has completely avoided the Indochina War. So it's just going to be the Philippines. And in fact, Mindanao has been taken by GEA. There goes Panama. So they did eventually manage to beat Panama. It was a bit of a long drawn out conflict though. Macau and East Timor going to the Third International would let them do something interesting in the Pacific. True. Yeah, that's very true. Submarines. And they do have good subs, at least France does. Middle Africa guy has a fantastic hat. He does, doesn't he? Theodore von Hassel, not Goring. Probably a good thing. Hey, Flamefang! How are you doing? Thanks very much for the follow. That's a name I recognise. And we are getting a lot of other people coming through. Let's see. Pacifist Yeti, Codicus Maximus, Fortress 345, and Gruppo. Thank you very much for the follows. Welcome to the channel. Didn't realise I wasn't following before, honestly. Fair enough. Flamefang is one of the Kaiserreich devs, so hello. So yeah, many things are happening. The USA continues to punch in against the AUS, though the AUS does definitely seem to have started to entrench themselves a little bit, and I've not seen the USA managing to take any significant territories for quite a while. Meanwhile, Tuareg continue to fight against the French, but I'm guessing that France is reassigning forces from their northern front to their southeastern front. And let's just do a quick check. Still no volunteers. Bit of a lost opportunity, I think, for the other powers of the world. Who could really do damage here? Who would want to? Third International. If Third International sent volunteers, I think that would help them. Meanwhile, Baratia. Is Baratia getting volunteers? No. That's also a surprise. Dominion of India isn't either, but that's because they've just called have they called everyone in? No, they haven't. No France, no Australasia, no Portugal. Portugal's in the Entente. I didn't think they were allowed to do that. Or maybe you just can't avoid it. Or maybe that rule has changed. I don't know. Meanwhile, the attacks over here, they continue this offensive into eastern Shaanxi, and it continues to resist their efforts to take it. Vientiane's starting to suffer some probable equipment shortages, especially for their cavalry, although the volunteers are over here in quite some numbers. Russia, Japan, Philippines and Siam all assisting. Meanwhile, League of Eight Provinces continues to do nothing in this war. Oh man, why? You're in it. You're just not sending anything. Just chilling. They got military access and everything. They're in the war. They're just not acting. They actually called in. Yeah, they're in the war. It's a separate war. Oh, I wonder if that's why, because they're not in a faction. These are just separate wars against Vientiane. Right? Right. That might be why they're not coordinating. Deal with the devil just fired. Thank you for that. So the AUS and the PSA are no longer fighting. PSA is going to be rerouting a lot of troops to this northern frontier against the USA. And I just noticed Chicago is still alive. Somehow. These 8 divisions, these 8 magnificent defenders of the Chicago independence are continuing to fight on. I wonder if these were Illinois volunteers that were raised. Might have been. Meanwhile, the AUS is obviously still losing territory. Mobile is... Mobile. How does Americans pronounce this? It's a French name, so I want to say Mobile, but I think they might call it Mobile. Nepal has capitulated to the Dominion, so the Dominion continues to embiggen. Mobile. Mobile is correct, okay. So not Mobile. The town of Mobile. It's a happening place. Meanwhile, this pocket is slowly but surely being hit harder, and I am seeing... Actually, I wonder where the American tanks are. Because America does tend to get a few. And I would hope that they would be positioned right here, trying to punch through this, because that would be pretty hefty pocket there. In fact, they've got it. They've got it. 2, 4, 6, 9. 9 divisions caught here. AUS, that's going to be a fairly significant fraction of their forces, although they currently have 88, so actually it's not that much. Is Northern Michigan okay? Northern Michigan is definitely coming under threat, and they've not guarded it at all. Probably forgetting, just like I do, that there's even a straight crossing here. Like the AI, terrible at guarding crossings in the best of times, and the Pacific States is... Oh, in fact, USA is not even AI. So this is entirely on the US player. They might well be about to lose Detroit. Meanwhile, Chicago has now fallen. The Dutch are having a revolution. Perfidious Netherlands. Meanwhile, Mobile has now fallen, so they are working on taking over Biloxi. Meanwhile, Jackson's under attack. Nashville holding for the moment, but lots of pressure being applied to them. You wanted to know the casualties. The United States has lost 271,000, which is up about 100,000 since we last checked, whereas the AUS is at 580,000. They have lost a lot fewer now, like another 30,000. So definitely the United States taking the brunt of this. Although all in all, 700,000 against 200,000, that's a lot less than the 4 million that were lost in the war last week. So USA doing a much better job. Although the PSA, they're moving in. I wonder if those are volunteers here. Have they noticed? Germany declared war on the Netherlands. Probably going after the Dutch East Indies. Whether they give it to the GEA or keep it for themselves, I'm not sure. And this is going to give them some more ports, particularly... yeah, Rotterdam is a port going into the English Channel, which could give them some interesting opportunities. Although it's also likely to just get bombed. Meanwhile, the Dominion of India is cleaving deeply and has just taken Calcutta from Baratia, so I cannot see Baratia holding on for much longer. They're at 96% capitulation. We do have a Dominion force moving through here. Chittagong, only 1 victory point. Cuttack, here's only 1. Basically just need to keep on pushing in. 1 province there unguarded, which they've just taken. And it does look like the Baratia force is really starting to struggle. Insul India has broken free. Oh wow, in a big way. A completely independent Insul India. Did that happen peacefully? I didn't even know that could happen peacefully. Did the Dutch get defeated? Not yet. At least we haven't seen a peace deal for that. Anyway, this is Burma and Bharatiya falling, so Dominion of India grows ever larger. Socialist Netherlands can get an event to release all colonies. Ah, I see. So does that mean that Insul India is now co-pro, is Third International? Because that would be interesting. When did the Dutch Commune happen? Well, we did have the Dutch Revolution notification, so that would be it. And they are the Revolutionary Committee, with a windmill on their insignia, because of course there is. Alright, so Dominion of India now moving down towards the Princely Federation, which is still having problems with some of the unruly princes. Meanwhile, we have got Insul India under Sukarno, with some of the nicest naval focuses in the game. Insul India can have an absolutely mean navy. And Insul India used to be Third International last year? I'm trying to remember exactly whose side Insul India was on. But I can't remember offhand. It was either Third In or Co-Pro. How's this shaping up so far? Hey, Requin. Interesting. Lots of volunteers being sent. China is actually becoming something of a Reichspakt stronghold. Qing being Reichspakt aligned, League of Six Provinces being Reichspakt aligned, and this being just one giant stalemate against Vientiane. Basically just absorbing units. Although they have... Ah! We have a border. So now... League of Six Provinces is finally entering the fray with all of their divisions here on this border, pushing or trying to push across the coast here, though it is being guarded entirely by volunteers. We've got Siam, we've got Russia, and we've got Russia. Meanwhile, Vientiane is free to push in. They have actually managed to take some territories from Baoding here in the north, but they've just brought in League of Six Provinces, which until this point has been pretty ineffectual. They are being attacked across the entire front lines. They're going to be inflicting some absolutely mean casualties against these two. But of course that doesn't matter so much because it's China and they have manpower in oodles. What is a problem for the Chinese, however, is equipment. And they don't have the industry to maintain heavy equipment losses. Sadly, releasing colonies doesn't make them socialists, except for Suriname in South America. Gotcha. So, Insul India, what government are they? Authoritarian Democrat. They might actually go... In fact, they can join anyone. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder who they'll join. Are they leaning in any direction? Not yet. So they need to get Merdeka. And then they can either go Reichspakt, Entente. They can't do Bharatiya anymore, so they can't do Co-Pro. They could also go Co-Pro. Sorry, Third In, not Co-Pro. All the way around. Not Third In, they can go Co-Pro. So it'll be interesting to see which direction they go. I would like to see them go Entente. Because that would give the Entente a significant presence down here in the south. It would put a real threat on Siam. And it would make Japan actually have to work at sea. Because they'd be up against Australasia, they'd be up against Insul India, and also India. Could also go Reichspakt, in which case you would see Germany, East Asia, and Insul India joining together against possible Japanese aggression. Although I think that a Reichspakt-Japan conflict... Oh no, of course, Reichspakt-Japan's very likely, because Russia will be fighting against them. Meanwhile, we have got Austria going against the Balkans. Now this is interesting, because it's not Bulgaria. The Serbian-Balkan Pact never had an opportunity to go after the Bulgarians. Austria biting the bullet and doing it instead, keeping their minions together. They're currently going after Romania with Transylvania. They're going after Serbia with Illyria. And Bulgaria is left just sitting here laughing. That is a strategy I had never even considered. Interesting. Meanwhile, in America, New Orleans is under threat. We have Americans now able to directly attack into the AUS capital. And right now it looks like that is going to go in the USA's favour. I need to find a province that's USA aligned. There we go. Serbia has capitulated. So I don't think that the Balkan Civil War is going to happen. I think they're going to avoid it. So Baton Rouge is being attacked. This is going to be the end of the AUS, probably. They might need to lose like Houston or Dallas or something. As well as Baton Rouge and New Orleans. Baton Rouge is a 2, New Orleans is a 25. Yeah, I think they are going to need to lose a little bit more. Meanwhile, the PSA moving pretty strongly through Michigan. They were prevented from taking Detroit or Chicago. Meanwhile, in Wisconsin, we do have... This is Wisconsin, right? Yeah, it is. Where's Minnesota? There's Minnesota. I need to remember my American geography. Meanwhile, in Wisconsin, we do have another border between the PSA and the USA, and it does look like volunteers continue to be a thing here. In fact, let's do something interesting. Let's go over to Russia. Tuareg has finally been defeated. So the French Republic taking over Tuareg and now moving in on Wadai as the last holdout. And actually, once they've made this peace deal, I want to click on Wadai just to see if anyone has sent them any volunteers. I doubt it, but I want to be sure. No. No volunteers to Wadai. No brave Swedish defenders of Wadaian independence. Meanwhile, Russia. Russia has sent volunteers to PSA, Romania, Serbia, and Fentian. Japan has sent volunteers to PSA, same people. Siam, only to the PSA and Fentian. New Orleans just fell. Union of Britain, no volunteers. France, Chile, CNTFAI, Chile, SRI, Chile, Germany, no volunteer. Oh, because they're at war with the Netherlands, right. Austria is at war. Bulgaria, no volunteers. I don't know what Bulgaria is doing. It is a player, right? Yep. A very, 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 very quiet player. Haven't seen anything from Bulgaria. We saw some very early volunteers in China, but that's it. And they're not involved now. And Serbia's just capitulated, so I don't think that the Balkan conflict can happen anymore. And Bulgaria's not even sending volunteers to Austria, who's fighting their war for them.